There's a very distinct difference between the types of graphics that we use in print design versus those which we use in web design. And in this movie, I'm going to break down the file formats that we use for web graphics. So traditionally, if you're a print designer, you're probably used to seeing things like Illustrator files, Photoshop files, TIFFs, and PDFs. But on the web, none of those file formats are going to work. In fact, they won't even display. What we use on the web are these three right here: JPEG, GIF, and PNG, or PNG. JPEG files are what we use mostly for photographs. They're great for photographs because they are able to convey continuous tone better than just about any other image format that we have on the web. They do have small file sizes due to the compression that's included with them, but unfortunately that compression is what we call lossy compression, which means every time you open, edit, and save a JPEG, you lose a little bit of pixel information, thus degrading the JPEG. So while these are great for photographs, these aren't great for, let's say, round-trip editing a lot, because if you edit and edit and edit, chances are you're going to damage the photo. But JPEGs are, as I said, the best option for photos, and that's what we use them for. GIF files are a little bit different, and in fact, I have a hard time talking about GIF files, to be quite honest with you, because for many years I've referred to GIF as GIF, graphically inferior format. But there are still some use cases for GIFs on the web today, and that would be for artwork with large areas of flat color, like the artwork that you see over on the right side of your screen right now. They're also the only types of files that can do animations out of these three. So if you have cats playing piano or something like that, animated content is best served up as a GIF. And of course, for objects with limited transparency, they are good as well. Now, what do I mean by limited transparency? I mean objects that have a clean-cut edge all the way around them and no subtle gradations like drop shadows and things like that. PNG or PNG files are probably my favorite type of web graphic, and there's actually two different types of them, PNG 8 and PNG 24. PNG 8 sort of behaves a lot like a GIF, and it's something I don't use all that often, but PNG 24 is the top of the line in terms of web graphics, in my opinion, because it is the best image file format for objects that have complex transparency. Those are objects that have a lot of drop shadows or gradients and things like that hanging off the edges. They also produce a little bit larger file size, but that's probably because they contain lossless compression. And they're also really great for color fidelity. And in fact, there's some websites, Facebook for instance, that actually recommend uploading your photos to their service in PNG format because it contains better color quality. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that Muse can actually handle native Photoshop files. So in fact, you don't have to export out your Photoshop documents as a PNG, GIF, or a JPEG file. You can just import the PSD directly into Muse. But just know that even though you're bringing in a native PSD, Muse is still going to convert that file on export to one of these other formats. In terms of creating graphics, Photoshop and Illustrator are still the heavy hitters when it comes to creating web graphics. Now, there is, of course, one other program that people have used for many years to create web graphics, and that's Adobe Fireworks. But since Adobe has decided not to update Fireworks past version CS6, I'm not going to be able to recommend that you use that because as these apps continue to progress, Photoshop CC and Illustrator CC, Fireworks is probably going to get left behind. In both of these applications, you're going to use something called the Save for Web dialog box in order to generate the graphics that you use on the web, and each one has its own respective Save for Web dialog box with many different features that allow you to fine-tune and change the formatting for each individual image that you're trying to export. Now, if you're unsure on how to do that, I've got 2 courses in the lynda.com online training library which should help you out. The first of which is Photoshop CC for web design, and the second of which is Illustrator for web design, both which take you soup to nuts through using both of these applications for web design purposes and then exporting those assets out, which you could then use in your Adobe Muse websites. Okay, hopefully now you have a better understanding of the different types of graphic formats that we use on the web, why you'd use each format for each individual purpose, and how to get those graphics out of applications like Photoshop and Illustrator and into Muse.